Water crisis hits the country's economic capital Douala. Taps have run dry at Cité de Palmier, a neighborhood here in the littoral region of Cameroon. Locals say that they have been suffering for 1 week now. We take a look at the day-to-day difficulties of inhabitants in this newscast. Also ahead, we discover some localities in Dongamantok division of the northwest region of Cameroon, where there are bad roads, absence of electricity, no potable water. How are local inhabitants coping? And in few hours from now, senators and MPs will be meeting for the June session of Parliament. What are the stakes? We shall be talking about that in this edition of the news. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Let's begin right away here in the economic capital Douala. As we announced a few seconds ago, inhabitants of Cité de Palmier have been for 1 week now without potable water. They tour different corners of their neighborhood and some parts of Douala just to be able to get the precious liquid to carry out their day-to-day chores. Let us take a look at their day-to-day ordeals with Innocent Aze.
Their homes have no drop of water. There is no water at home to drink, wash clothes, and to mop the floor. I tour places in search of water. Residents of Cité de Palmier live for several days now without the precious liquid. It is a recurrent situation which remote controls the residents' livelihood. We get up at 4 p.m. to search for water. It is difficult getting the water because many people also get up at that time to fetch the precious liquid. We are compelled to queue up in a long line before fetching. Men, women, children and toddlers cross the roads with empty containers to have them filled with water, irrespective of the source. Furious inhabitants blame the water production and distribution company for depriving them of water under the pretext of maintenance works being executed without prior notification.
Le problème c'est qu'on n'a même pas été communiqué, il n'y a même pas eu de communication à ce sujet. Donc on n'a pas d'eau depuis on ne sait pas pourquoi.
Cité de Palmier is only one amongst numerous localities in Douala hit by the water syndrome.
Innocent Aze, they're reporting now. We take you to Dongamantok division where several villages are still without tarred roads and there is absence of electricity. For years now, access to potable water in some of the villages in Nwa, as well as in those subdivisions, is problematic. The people say that the Anglophone crisis has further crumbled economic activities in some of the localities, as we see in the following report. Nkambe, the chief town of Dongamantok division, is surrounded by scores of villages plagued by underdevelopment. Two of these localities which caught our attention are the sub-village in Ndu subdivision and Sabongari in Nwa. In Sabongari, like in the sub-village, the roads have never been constructed. Commuters have been plying these untarred roads for decades.
I am
Fonge Stephen of the sub-village says that transporting goods from the farm to the market is a major challenge.
We have been trying to fill the pothole on the road, but we are unable because you have the little quota you are seeing on the road that was produced by the European Union in those days. But today we don't have the means we can repay it. We are begging that the administration will look into it and help us.
The Anglophone crisis, he adds, has crumbled the economy. Traders take goods to the market, but there are no buyers.
When we produce food, nobody come and buy. The food remain and got spoiled because of bad road and because of this economy that is worrying us. Our market is here. We produce all type of food, but there's no way to go and sell.
The sub-village and Sabongari have no electricity. The people either use bush lamps or solar energy, which can only be afforded by few.
You come here, you see us. We are using bush lamp. We are using little solar system.
The solar system will never be correctly connected for take cook.
Access to potable water is also a problem in Sabongari. The people only rely on water from doubtful sources, and they complain that waterborne diseases are common in the area. Ndongamanto is one of the divisions in the Northwest region where the population is begging for infrastructural development and the putting in place of basic social amenities. They blame the government for abandoning the area. And Cameroonians are lacking water for household chores when they are represented at the level of the parliament, the upper and the lower houses of parliament. For 5 years now, since the last parliamentary election took place, that was in 2013 in Cameroon, some MPs have not been able to tackle the problems of bad roads, potable water and electricity in their respective localities. The people's rights to basic social amenities are simply being violated in several localities and regions in Cameroon. MPs are going to be meeting tomorrow for the last time before the next election take place, if at all it would take place in Cameroon, as the Cameroonians are expecting the election to be announced by the President of the Republic. MPs will begin meeting at 11 a.m. In the nation's capital, Yaoundé, for the June session of Parliament. Senators would equally be meeting in the afternoon tomorrow, starting 4 p.m. In the second part of this newscast, possibly we are going to be looking at the stakes of the June session of Parliament, which would open tomorrow in the nation's capital. Now, BPC examinations in the French subsystem of education entered day 2 today across the national territory. It began yesterday hitch-free in some examination centers in the economic capital, Douala. Innocent as it was at the government bilingual high school, Nilong in Brazzaville. He brought back this report.
It was in a serene atmosphere that the BPC examination of the French subsystem of education kicked off June 5 in Government Bilingual High School Nilong Brazzaville Accommodation Center. What was disturbing was the absence of 26 candidates out of 1,515 expected to write the exam. Other situations like transfer cases and candidates quired up to the examination center by their parents for misplacing their official writing documents and school identity cards were all considered minor problems by the chief of center, Njem Samuel de Pardo. He urged parents of those who have forgotten theirs at home to ensure their children carry them along the subsequent days. Candidates went through thorough search before stepping into the center and examination halls. All candidates arrived on prescribed time, 8 a.m., except for one who arrived 13 minutes later and would have missed the first paper had it clocked 8:15. He said he was only informed by his father it was examination day.
And management of the Shishong Cardiac Center is receiving 10 medical experts from out of Cameroon, precisely in Italy, for their second pediatric mission for the year 2018. The Cardiac Center is one of the most visited health institutions in Cameroon, but traveling to the hospital is a veritable nightmare for commuters, as Franklin Moabe tells us in the following story.
The Cardiac Center in Shishong, inaugurated in 2009, is one of the most visited health institutions in Cameroon, specialized in the treatment of heart diseases. Traveling to these hospitals situated in the Mbui division of the Northwest region is a veritable nightmare as a result of the bad state of the road.
In as much as the patients are concerned, we know the roads are difficult. The road infrastructure remains it's difficult, but we think we have spoken so much about it. We really don't know.
Management of the Shishong Cardiac Center is receiving 10 medical experts from Italy for their second pediatric mission of the year 2018. The team coming from San Nicolanto have 12 patients for the surgical operations.
This is the second pediatric mission for the year, and the team is coming from Italy, from San Nicolanto. We have 12 patients on the list for surgery.
The team from Italy, specialized in heart-related issues, is coming to Cameroon at a time when heart-related diseases are on the rise in both children and adults in the urban centers and local communities.
Cardiovascular disease in Cameroon really are in rise, probably because there are more doctors, more cardiologists that are well trained to diagnose them. And as we know, all of us, we know about hypertension, we know about the complications of hypertension, we know about congenital heart diseases, we know about acquired heart diseases, we know about problem with the heart rhythm, what people used to call palpitation. We know about all those things, and we see cardiologists, we used to consult patients, we see that the condition is getting worse and worse, probably because in the past we were saying that, or we were thinking that it's only in urban areas that we meet or we see cardiovascular diseases. No, in rural areas also, like here, I cannot really say that it's an urban center. We are semi-urban and mostly rural area where we also see cardiovascular diseases, we also see hypertensive cases, we see cases with cerebrovascular accidents or CVA, we see cases in need of pacemakers, we see cases, children that are born with congenital heart diseases, and this really is a challenge for our country. I can say really that is a public health problem.
The treatment of these patients has so far been fruitful, as even low-income earners benefit from the operations carried out at the center. The 2018 development plan is not for patients to travel to Shishang only, but for them to be consulted and diagnosed wherever they find themselves within the country.
Something very special about the 2018 development plan for CC is that due to the socio-political crisis, we have been able to see how to increase the sites for mobile consultation in order to extend to the 10 regions of Cameroon as much as possible. We are stretching our hands and we want to reach areas like Kongsamba, Fumban, Buda, and other areas, so much so that we can be able to meet the patients where they are, considering the fact that some patients find it very difficult reaching the cardiac center nowadays because of the road.
The team from Italy, coupled with the host team of cardio-related disease experts, are expected to end their operations on Saturday, 9th June 2018.
And in sports football, before we take you to the second part of this newscast, qualification matches in prelude to the 2018 female AFCON to take place in Ghana have entered the second and last phase. In the away leg match this afternoon in Brazzaville, the Lionesses of Cameroon trashed Congo 5-0. The return leg match will take place this Saturday, June the 9th, 2018 in Yaoundé between Cameroon and Congo. They're bringing us to the end of this edition of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. We shall be right back. Tonight we are once again being joined by Barrister Law, Barrister Tamfo Richard. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Good evening, Mimefo.
MPs would tomorrow, for the last time before the parliamentary election take place, if at all the elections will take place, be taking part in the June plenary sitting. On confronting reports say that the opposition is bracing to stage a protest at the level of the National Assembly, which is not going to be for the first time. They're going to be pressing for the revision of the country's electoral code and the Anglophone crisis to be included on the agenda. Can this be able to mount pressure on the government to table the bill on the electoral code at the level of the National Assembly?
Well, you agree with me that this is not the first time that members of parliament have expressed their dissatisfaction as far as the running of the government is. So I don't think that this second stage will do anything to the government. The government has decided to give a deaf ear on all what is happening, and another demonstration maybe by the opposition, I don't think it's going to make the government to react. We all know that this is the last mandate of these members of parliament, and from the assessment we have seen how the opposition has always decried the bad governance of things, but nobody is listening to them. We saw how some members of parliament as of date are not even coming again to the parliament, like Honorable Wiba Joseph is nowhere to be found, and maybe others that I don't do. So I don't think our parliament today really stands to oppose the ruling government of today.
This is an electoral year, and many would want to think or believe, especially observers would want to believe that even just for political interest, MPs could possibly look into the demands of the opposition. We know that the majority of MPs and even senators are from the ruling CPDM political party. Don't you think that even just for political interest, they could reconsider revising the electoral code, looking at the electoral year that we have in the country?
The advocacy on revising the electoral code doesn't date today, or it doesn't date maybe on it will not be a first issue for debate in the open issue of tomorrow. People have always cried that the electoral code as of present doesn't really fit the democratic game, so that it should be revised, but nobody has listened to it. So we cannot be talking of a country that preaches democracy but is not ready to make it happen. So I don't see them tomorrow accepting to maybe scrutinize that bill or revising it. So the same scenario will continue, and the majority at the parliament will still continue to overshadow those who are of no significant value.
It could be different for the electoral code, but different as well
the
for
present electoral
the Anglophone
code
crisis that the opposition has always called on the need for the Anglophone crisis to be included on the agenda. The situation is escalating.
The present electoral code for 99% favors the ruling party. So why do you think that they want to revise it? They are not ready for any revision of the electoral code because it favors them. The Anglophone crisis, which we have been decrying that it should even be heard at the level of the National Assembly, nobody gives a listening ear to it. So,
even looking at the way things are escalating in the regions, in the northwest and the southwest, don't you think that it is time for the MPs and the senators to look into the situation at the level of the lower and upper houses of parliament?
We have continued to decry the bad governance of this country. So the situation now in those two regions has reached a level which, from the very first days, 2016, what we could solve was very simple. But because of poor governance and bad management, the crisis has to escalate up to this level. So I don't think that this last parliamentary session will give an open way to that. We saw the commission of Peter Mafani Musonge coming back to all the propositions that were earlier tabled, all the revendications that were being agitated by
when the crisis escalated.
So
in June,
nobody listened to them. So I don't think that the commission of Peter Mafani Musonge is still going to play a major role. We only have to wait the outcome of the crisis as we want it to be, that maybe foreign bodies will come and help us solve our problem, because we ourselves have refused to solve it. So let us just continue to see how
you said for yourself that the Bilingualism Commission is coming back to some of these proposals that were earlier rejected. Don't you think that it's a sign of hope that there could be some significant changes as far as government's way of addressing this crisis would be?
Well, we have the hopes for me now are not really much. My probabilities for that hope is not more much as when the crisis just started. It is not only the bilingualism, more other important bodies or authorities have prayed this government to resolve this issue and address these issues, but none of them have listened to it. So the commission is still just coming to re-echo what has been said already. So I don't see any major change, and we will still continue to witness what we are witnessing
When
now.
I hear you talk, you're giving the impression that the problem is above the government of Cameroon.
No, the problem is not above the government of Cameroon. That the government of Cameroon is refusing to listen and solve the problem. Nobody. I don't think that a problem can be above the state of Cameroon. We know who is the head of state. That's the person who can resolve this crisis in a fraction of seconds. But he's refusing to listen to it. He's refusing to solve it. So what do? I don't think that Peter Mafani Musonge, that we know how respectable he is as a person, but I don't think whether his voice will count when he will be the one to present it to the President of the Republic, because
but the Bilingualism Commission is like a song to the government that this is one of the major solutions that we have provided to the Anglophone crisis.
Well, let us just wait and all ourselves we see. But to me, I don't believe in that, because if we have other international bodies of high reputation who have addressed or who have brought to the attention of the president that no, this problem is really serious, try and give an ear to it, see the type of legacy that you want to leave, and still yet he is indifferent. I think it's a commission that he himself has set. When setting the commission, he knew that there was a problem. So why not resolve it than waiting that it's the commission that will give him solutions or proposals before he adopts it. So I think we are just turning around time, and time will be in our disfavor in the days ahead.
Now, we saw reports of how some localities are in dire need of potable water, electricity. We saw the situation of the people of Nwa in Dongamantung, northwest region of Cameroon. We equally saw those in Ndu as well as Nwa subdivisions, that is in Dongamantung of the northwest region. Here in the economic capital Douala, there is absence of potable water in areas like Cité de Pamiers. We are seeing MPs almost ending their mandate, like you earlier indicated. What could be your evaluation, Barrister?
Well, it's really a shame that at the 21st century we still lack basic necessities like potable water. You cannot imagine a government that has been in power for more than 35 years and people are still in lack of water. So it simply shows the failure of or even the members of parliament. Their voices are not being heard at the level of the assemblies. They may have maybe bills that they will table. The bills will be scrutinized and rejected. So I see that the members of parliament have not really been working as it's supposed to be. It's really unfortunate.
Despite political affiliations,
yes.
Do you think that MPs have been able to defend their respective localities in Cameroon, looking at the situation on the ground?
No, even the MPs are not given that free speech at the level of the parliament. You see an MP in parliament trying to defend his constituencies. He's refused the right to talk. He asks for audience. Nobody is granting it. So how do you want a member of parliament to defend that type of the position of his constituency before a National Assembly, which is not willing to listen? So I think members of parliament really have a very difficult task with this present regime, especially those from the opposition, because when you are from the opposition, you are considered abandoned.
What about the Senate? This is a new mandate that is just kicking off. They would hold their June session, that is tomorrow in the afternoon. Don't you think there could be some hope at the level of the Senate? We have new senators, especially from the northwest region of Cameroon, representing the Social Democratic Front Party.
Yes, the Senate, yeah, though the majority is still from the ruling party. I don't see how 97 voices will be able to fight 7 voices. Good projects or maybe good representation could be made by the various senates, but is that bill, for example, if for example they were to bring up maybe the bill on maybe water, on how to ameliorate living conditions with respect to water, and you have 97 voices against 7 who will vote maybe against, how does the bill pass? So I don't think that, anyway, the Senate is there to question the government, know how affairs have been managed, but I don't even see them having an opposition power to overrule or to try to fight with the ruling party.
So it's almost an all CPDM Senate,
yes,
and National Assembly.
That is it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tamfo Richard, for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
To our viewers, it was equally our pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs until we meet again. Goodbye.